Hi there. In a world where nothing is certain, that means anything is possible, right? If you want to fulfill your dreams and desires, you are in the right place. You absolutely can have a life of happiness. Everyone deserves an abundance of love, laughter, success, health, and wealth. I'm Tara Chadzakis, and you're listening to the Happy, Inspired, Motivated podcast. The show that brings you meditation, mindset, and motivation. So start by giving yourself permission to be awesome. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hi, and welcome to this episode of Happy, Inspired, Motivated. Today, I'm joined by Lisa Mitchell, who is a visionary founder, an intuitive guide, and a coach. Lisa spent years transforming lives and businesses around the world of some of the biggest leading founders and entrepreneurs. Lisa's worked with the Jamie Oliver Group, Net-a-Porter, Madalux, L'Oreal, and all sorts of big names. But Lisa doesn't just work, for example, working with the people in the business. She finds it her mission to actually work with the founders and the visionaries themselves, because she believes that change can only come when it's passed through those guys first. So in this interview, you're going to learn about connecting to your biggest vision and how to make it into reality, ways to lead an extraordinary life. Lisa also talks about why feminine energy is the future of the world and why visionaries are going to change the world. And we also look at how to consciously create your reality rather than just reacting to circumstance. And one quote to take away from this interview, which I thought was wonderful, was, "I win, you win, we all win." And we have to remember that we're in this together. And all the success that I experienced through my podcast, through my coaching, has a positive effect on you as well. And all the success that my clients experience and you experience also has a positive impact on me as well. So to create a world full of winners, we have to win together. We have to work together. And it's always about collaboration, not competition. So I'd love to hear what else you gained from this episode. Get in touch with me on Instagram at Tara Chadzakis and let me know what resonated the most with you from this interview with Lisa Mitchell. So let's get into the show. Hi, Lisa, and welcome to Happy, Inspired, Motivated. How are you today?
I'm really good, thank you. Sitting in the sunshine.
Good. We've actually got the summer now that we've been waiting for, even though it is sort of turning into autumn. But I'm still really grateful.
Me too. I love the sunshine.
So tell me a little bit about your backstory and what brought you to where you are today.
It's interesting. I like you, I think, was originally from a corporate background. So I grew up, as many of my clients do, sort of as a child, feeling a bit like not understanding what life was all about and feeling a bit disconnected. Came from a northern family, grew up with lots of messages of, nothing, life's not meant to be easy and you have to work hard and go into a job and stay there. And I can remember even as a kid, that didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any other role models. I didn't know any entrepreneurs when I was a kid. So I did the traditional thing. I went to school, I went to university, had a nice boyfriend, bought a flat in London, had this great corporate career, probably like many of the people that you work with. My life was great on the outside. And I was thoroughly miserable on the inside of just kind of like, I had no idea what I was doing. And I realize now with the benefit of hindsight that I was just like floating in some tide of the normal way of living life, Yeah. And then I used to work for Sainsbury's, and they foolishly sent me on this senior leadership development program. And I discovered this thing called coaching. And I saw these coaches in action and I was like, oh my God, you can make a living doing that? That's awesome. I became quite good friends with one of the coaches.
Yeah.
And I just had that light bulb moment. It's the first time in my life where I thought, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. I get it. And I've even got goosebumps saying it now. And I met a coach, again, through a sort of serendipity kind of thing. I met a coach, and that was sort of in my early 30s. And I see that as the time when my life properly started,
Yeah, definitely.
Then my job at Sainsbury's, part of what I did was look after the Jamie Oliver advertising contract. which he had at the time.
Mm.
And so I got involved with him and his business. I knew his agent really well, all of that sort of stuff. So when I left to be a coach, he was my first contract, which is pretty awesome.
Wow.
Contract. So it was amazing because I just got to be with him in his business, work with a lot of his senior leaders, see how the business operated, see kind of like what works as a visionary founder and where the pitfalls are.
Yeah.
And I've continued with that sort of journey, really. I've had my own consultancy for 15 years. I have worked with the big companies like L'Oreal and Penguin Books, still do. But my passion is with the visionary founders. So that's why I'm working now more in that field. I've created my own podcast around that topic. So yeah, that's my real passion.
So what kind of things did you do with the Jamie Oliver Group and the big names? How did you work coaching in that?
So I've worked in different ways, and I realized a few years ago that I love to help, and I go into these businesses and I see within about 10 minutes, I can see what all the issues are and what needs to happen. That's one of my intuitive kind of gifts.
Yeah.
But I have shifted through the years because I did go through a phase of running big leadership programs, operating at that sort of middle management into director level.
Yeah.
And then I realized that particularly working with the visionary founders, you have to work with the founder first, because their energy is really what creates the business.
Yeah.
And you see, there's such a fascinating thing that, if the visionary founder has an issue with money, for example, so does the business. And it just trickles.
That's so true. Yeah.
Down.
Yeah.
So now what I say to founder-led organizations is I'll only do it if I work with the founder first. And look at them and help them really connect to, what do they want their business to look like, but what do they want their life to look like? And what's this vision for what they're creating, and what's the change that they're trying to create for humanity? Yeah. And then once we're clear on all of that, how do you create a business that works for them personally and professionally? So I'm really passionate about this whole life perspective. And actually, I'm coaching a CEO in America at the moment. He's a CEO and founder. And when we got to the end of our first 6 months coaching, he said, we were reflecting on what had changed and everything. Yeah. And he said, you know what, this was totally not what I expected it to be. It's been brilliant, but it's totally not what I thought it was going to be. And I said, oh, why? And he said, well, I kind of thought you'd be like an executive coach and we talk about strategy and you'd advise me on the changes that I needed to make in the business. And he said, but actually it's been all about me.
Yeah.
And how he claimed his space, his own unique space as a CEO in the world, And so I've realized more and more that's the work I'm doing. I'm helping people be the fullest expression of themselves in their workplaces and be visionaries in it.
Yeah, a lot of them, I guess, at sort of that kind of level they're all about the business. They forget themselves. So they forget to take care of themselves and work on themselves as well.
Yeah. And they've grown up with some of the same stories where I just have to work harder and harder and harder, rather than, so I talk a lot about being in feminine, not masculine energy.
Yeah.
I've seen the law of attraction for you. And, I talk a lot about those kind of topics.
Yeah.
Which is not your standard business conversation. So.
Oh, no, it's not.
I'm lucky that I have the background in business, so I can get the credibility from there. But then I'm really having an energetic conversation about who they're being in the world and how they amplify that energy in the world. Yeah, and that's what I'm playing.
So why do you think that people have to connect more with the feminine energy? What is the difference? Can you explain that to us?
Yeah. So I and this is a personal journey I've been on, which is always the case with our clients, right?
Yeah.
That I grew up in really not feeling good enough, I think, in lots of ways. And so my strategy was just to work harder than anybody else, all through my corporate career, to get over the imposter thing, because again, I wasn't in a career that was aligned with me. And so I pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. And actually, when I left Sainsbury's, I actually ended up with chronic fatigue for about a year. And the reason, I saw a brilliant naturopath who helped me through that whole time. And it was really interesting. She said, you shouldn't even have been keeping going. Like, you are so strong mentally.
Yeah.
But you should have given up ages ago. You just.
Wow, scary.
Yeah, scary. just living on adrenaline and pushing harder and harder and harder. And, I realized I had all these beliefs around hard work and nothing, you don't get anything for nothing, and all that stuff that I thought I'd rejected was kind of imprinted in my DNA somewhere.
It does though, doesn't it? Because you get it from such a young age. You can't find where it is exactly, but it's always in there.
Absolutely. So what I found for myself, and what I talk a lot with my clients, is that when you let go, when you go into more of an allowing and receiving space, which is what I call the feminine energy, and don't get me wrong, we need both, right? So the masculine for me is more driving, action, get it done, but I think where visionaries are visionaries most powerfully is in that allowing space. When you talk to a visionary about where their brilliant idea came from, it's really a gift from the universe, actually. They'll describe a situation of like, well, I just had this idea about something and it just sort of came to me. And, if you read about J.K. Rowling, she'll say the same thing, right? Harry Potter was gifted to her. And I really believe that visionaries are like this direct line to the universe, basically.
Yeah.
And so they bring something through. And that's why I get so excited about working with these people, is that, they're bringing something new for humanity. And I really believe that this visionary essence is in all of us. So a lot of my job is to get them to step back, to go back into that creative space, to be in the vision, and to make them see that that's their most important job. Because other people can do some of the doing. Their most important job is to hold the vision and to feel into the next pieces and to stay in this bigger perspective and dive down when they need to dive down, but not be in the melee, because so many visionary founders I've worked with have lost their way, and the businesses lose their way because they get sucked into the day-to-day, which is not actually their talent at all. There are more operational people that can do that.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like with coaching too, when you're starting up, you're doing everything yourself, and it takes you away from doing what you're really good at, and you end up doing other stuff, not half-heartedly, but not as well as somebody else probably could.
Yes. And I've learned that in my business. I'm a big believer in outsourcing. My mission is to outsource everything that I'm either not passionate about or not very good at. And those two things tend to go together. So, and in my personal as well as my professional life. So, so it's a lot of that allowing, receiving energy that really is where their power is, and where all of our power is, I believe.
Yeah. And I do like what you said about, like, we all have this visionary gift. We all have it. We just, a lot of us don't tap into it because we get so bogged down with, you have to do this and this, and achieving somebody else's version of success, that we never allow ourselves the time to find what we could be doing that would bring a gift to humanity, like you said.
Exactly. And of course we have all those beliefs and all those things, and your mind wants to tell you that you're going to go bankrupt, or people think you're a lunatic if you talk about energy and consciousness, and I've been through all of that.
Yep, I've been through it as well. Everyone thinks I'm crazy too, but I don't really care.
But I think the exciting thing is when I talk to the younger generations, I've got a daughter who's 9, who's been brought up around all of this stuff, and her perspective is so different. And you see a lot of people in their early 20s making millions, because almost overnight, because they haven't grown up with all that stuff that you and I probably grew up.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I mean, I can see it in my kids. Sorry, I lost you then. What did you say?
No, I said I can see the shift through the generation. So I do think this is all going to change.
Yeah, I was saying that to my youngest the other day. She's 16, my youngest, and she's very much into like on TikTok about energy and manifestation and all of these things. And I'm like, my God, if I'd had that at her age, what difference would that have made to my life now? Because I'm not a late bloomer, but I'm late because it wasn't available when I was younger. But if I'd had it, and the new generation just like lapping it up, and I love that. They're so much more aware than we were.
Absolutely. And even in the world of business, this is now a conversation. I mean, I've been having this conversation for about 10 years, but in some ways now I'm much more kind of upfront about the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I do think that the world of business, enterprise, all of that stuff, wherever you are on that spectrum, is opening up to this whole manifestation with the creators of our reality, that it's energy first. That's what I say to my clients a lot. Yeah. It's energy first. And I have so many examples in my own life of shifting my energy and then circumstances just magically lining up. You know, I'm sure you have too.
Yeah, definitely. So tell me, how can people connect to their bigger vision and make it a reality? What can they do to lead that extraordinary life?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Yeah, so I think it is about stepping out. So I think it's about creating space. And so I say to people, you know, there'll be spaces in your life that where you feel that sense of flow already, you know, and that might be when you're walking your dog on the beach, one of my personal favorites. You know, it might be when you're with your kids, it might be when you're doing something musical or you're running or whatever. We all have that sense of flow somewhere in our lives, often, not always, but often. So one of the things I'm often doing with people in the beginning stages of stuff is they're like, well, I don't know, like, I don't even know where to, like, how do you even start?
Yeah.
Go to those places where you can find that connection and then feel into it and amplify it, because you're trying to make that your dominant way of being really in the world.
Yeah.
And actually, when I start to explore with people, quite often, I think people often know, it's just buried underneath some layers of stuff that they've taken on through the years. So when I coach people and I say to them, well, what are you passionate about? What lights you up? What do you love? Just tell me about that. And we start to follow the breadcrumbs, as I sometimes say, then often you'll discover that actually they do know what they really want to do. They've just kind of convinced themselves it's not possible, you can't make money at it, whatever the story is that stops them playing in that space. So I often get people to just be in nature, to journal, but also when I work with people, I'm working energetically with people. So I'm kind of using my energy with theirs to kind of elevate things. And so often when people are with me in a session, more stuff will pop out because it's a kind of combination of our energy together, you know. And I do say that to people, I'm consciously also connecting. So when I work with clients, I often get downloads about stuff, and then I'll say something to somebody and they're like, how the heck did you know that about me? Or my God, like that happened to me when I was 11 or something, you know? So again, I learned to trust that as a coach. And I say to people, you know, I use coaching skills, but I'm also like more of an intuitive guide in some ways.
Yeah.
I sometimes call myself like energy activator. You know, one of my big clients actually said to me when I first met her, what do you call what you do? And I said, it's kind of a work in progress. I'm not sure yet, because I'm allowing more of these intuitive gifts through.
Yeah.
And connecting to that spiritual side. And I'm much more open about that now than I used to be 10 years ago. And I used to kind of do it, but I was like under cover of darkness. Now I'm like, you have to be open and into some of this spiritual stuff to work with me. Otherwise it's not going to work. Yeah. You know?
And I think the more that you tap into that, the more intuitive you become, because you're up and in the flow of that, aren't you? Which allows you to experience it more.
Yes, absolutely. And what's been interesting is I've really brought my daughter up in that way, and she's always been open to that world. So, you know, my dad actually died when I was 20 weeks pregnant, but she always insisted she knew him and she had a relationship with him right from being, as soon as she could talk, she would talk about him like they were alive at the same time. You know, it's kind of like, and at the time I was a bit like, how do you deal with this, you know? But actually, and she gets a lot of deja vu, and she you know, because I think we're in that energetic together, and she's been brought up in that way that I've never closed anything down.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, that's also why I wanted to do my podcast and get this message out more broadly, not just with my business clients, because I do feel like we all have this essence in us, this visionary essence. And the more of us that claim it, the faster we evolve humanity. That's my bigger mission.
And how do you think that that's shaping the business that they do? I mean, you know, we were talking about, you know, working for humanity and how we can make improvements in that kind of field. How is the spiritual energy or awakening amplifying that?
Well, it's so interesting. I was actually just recording a podcast episode myself on this very subject.
Oh, really?
Literally this morning. So there you go. I said, you know, the world of business has gone from sort of competitive and hierarchical to collaborative, coaching, empowering. And now I think we're shifting into a visionary paradigm. That's what I see.
Okay.
And so when I'm talking to these entrepreneurial businesses, what I see is that they're working in a paradigm that says, I win, you win, and we all win.
Yeah.
And it's,
love that.
Again, it's very interesting from an energetic law of attraction perspective, because I've set out, that's the paradigm I want to be with and work with.
Yeah.
And my new clients, when I talk to them, it's hilarious. Like, they literally say these things back to me. Nice. So one of my clients in the US, you know, when I first started talking to them, they were like, you know, yes, we want to, you know, they've made millions, you know, and they love money and they love success and all of those things. And they also have an intention that all the leads in their business also become millions, and also evolve themselves and also grow as part of this experience.
Wow.
And now they're looking at, okay, now we've got all this success. How do we then pay that forward? So they've got a family foundation they're setting up, but also, like, how do we work in a way? How do we get this message in a way where we can work with other entrepreneurs to really pay that contribution forward? So I'm just about to set something up, working with more early stage entrepreneurs who've got funding, who are going to grow fast.
Yeah.
Because again, I think if you're an early stage founder, if you know these lessons early, if you can connect to your vision first, look after your energy, have a whole life perspective, build the business from there, and do what I call working visionary to visionary. So if I'm working with you, I'm clear on my vision, but also my conversation says, right, Tara, what's your vision?
Yeah.
What brought you into this business? How do you want to grow as being part of this collective enterprise that we're in?
Yeah.
And we meet visionary to visionary. And that, to me, excites me, like, beyond.
Yeah, like, definitely.
Like,
yeah.
That creates extraordinary to me.
That changes the world completely. Complete shift. But absolutely. I mean, how are you finding, like, existing businesses? I mean, these are visionaries, and these are, you know, these are new entrepreneurs or people who are moving into that kind of state of being. Yes. But what about the traditional hierarchical?
Yeah.
Did I say that right? Hierarchical? No, I didn't, did I?
Hierarchical. Yeah.
Hierarchical. Yeah. I didn't think it sounded right. These kind of businesses that have been going for donkey's years, that are still, you know, male dominated. How are they, or how can we affect those as well? Because I don't think we have as much interaction with them, because they're not as open. I don't think.
Well, yes. I mean, I think it's different scales of consciousness almost, isn't it? You know, I'm talking about people that are already in this field, as you say, and already up for it.
Yeah.
You know, some of my very traditional clients, I've always, even though it's harder to shift, I do have a mission to get in there and change it, because there are millions of people who work in those organizations.
Yeah, there are. Yeah.
So I feel personally I can't let it go, even though it's not the easiest job. And what's interesting is, though, that sometimes circumstances have to force the shift, right?
Yeah.
So you'll find that those companies that are not changing as fast are really struggling with employee retention and recruitment.
Yeah.
And so they're having to shift, because, you know, when I went into business, I was like, keep your head down, do as you're told, you know, get on with it and hope you don't get fired, right? Or shouted at. You know, now when the younger generations again come into businesses, they say, okay, so this is what I can bring. What can you give to me? And if you're not prepared to have that level of conversation, they're not going to join you.
No.
So they're always being forced to change, which is really interesting. And I had this conversation, actually. I also think COVID is creating a huge change. So now even my more traditional clients are going, right, we have to offer flexible working. People are not going to come into the office full time.
Yeah.
And I know people that have left, have just resigned because they refuse to go back full time into their businesses. And so now even very traditional businesses I work with are going to a 3-2 work week, 3 days at home, 2 days in the office as a standard. And then you can also negotiate, right?
Yeah.
So that shift is coming. And actually I was having this conversation with one client the other day, and she said to me, you know, we're not the kind of business that does that. It's not our culture. It's really difficult in our industry to do that. And I said to her, honestly, that ship has sailed. And if you want to be an employer of choice, if you want to attract great talent into your business, you are going to have to embrace this change somehow. Because we know, we all know businesses. I was reflecting this morning thinking, do you remember when Nokia was the #1 phone brand? Right? And then sat on their laurels, and then other people came up, and now the younger generation are like, who? The what? The what?
Nokia bricks.
Yeah, Polaroid. You know, we
Yeah.
all have examples in the past of companies that did not embrace change
Mm.
and got left behind.
Yeah.
So one of my missions is to bring this visionary mentality, this entrepreneurial mentality into big organizations. And I think you either do that by taking out the people who are really up for it and training them and then putting them back in the system. But that's kind of quite tough for those guys going back in. And they end up leaving because they're just like, oh, holy crap, I can't do that anymore. I'm going. I was at one point going to be the coach that got lots of people to resign because that's kind of what tended to happen.
Well, yeah, once they awaken and the company's not shifting with it, then they're going to leave, aren't they?
Absolutely. And I've always been very open with companies to say, right, if we awaken these people to their bigger potential, you have to also think about what you're going to do with them and how you're going to shift things so they can stay. But often they say, yes, it doesn't happen. So, but I do believe there's a big shift coming, and the big organizations are being forced actually to embrace it.
Yeah.
Because of all these changes going on in the world.
Yeah. I mean, COVID has created so much change, and because the way everything was going, and it was going masculine energy hard, full force, and things just had to change and change for the better. Even though, you know, it's caused a lot of heartache and a lot of issues, it's still benefited us from doing this. And I mean, you can imagine the energy that had to create this world, this global shift is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And people either tap into that or don't.
Absolutely. And what's interesting at the moment is I think there's a bit of a big divide. I think there are the people who are in fear and panic, which, you know, is being propagated. I very rarely interact with any normal media at the moment.
No, I mean,
but that is so like toxic what's going on, I think.
Yeah.
But on the other side, I think there are people who are, again, if you lift yourself out the day to day and you see this as evolution, that it is a big awakening. And that's really exciting to me.
Me too.
I'm having more and more conversations with people who get that and are seeing this big shift. And I think that will filter through to the world of business. And I do think that entrepreneurs will change the world. Honestly, that's why I so love entrepreneurs at all levels. Yeah. Whether you're a startup or whether you've got a big enterprise, I believe that entrepreneurs are tapped into that energy, to that visionary energy.
Yeah, they have to be.
Yeah, and they will be the people that change the world. And it will become more and more and more. It's what I say to my daughter, by the time you come through to work, it'll be mainly entrepreneurs, I think.
Well, I actually did a post about that not so long ago about, wouldn't it be great if everybody was their own entrepreneur and it was completely different makeup? And I got some slating. Oh my goodness. People can't all be self-employed. People can't all be entrepreneurs who do the shitty jobs. And I'm like, well, there shouldn't be any shitty jobs, to be honest.
Well, there won't be, because machines will do the shitty jobs. So,
well, yeah. You know, how can somebody who's 18 charge the same price as somebody who's blah, blah, blah? Well, it doesn't, that's not what I was saying.
Yeah.
You know, everyone should be able, and they were saying, or people won't be as dedicated because they won't have a boss and they'll slack off or they won't show up. And I'm thinking, that's the kind of entrepreneurs that you've been used to, not the ones that I've had experience of. The entrepreneurs that I know are just dedicated completely to their business.
And again, it's interesting because there's been a whole shift in trust in COVID, because you now don't have somebody in the office where you can see them working.
Yeah.
You have to trust that they're going to do their job, and you have to shift from hours to output. Because I've said to my clients, what does it matter? As long as they're doing the thing you want them to do. Does it matter if they're doing it at midnight or 2 a.m, or they could do it in 3 hours and then go to the beach? Does it matter if they're actually doing the job?
It shouldn't do. It shouldn't do, should it?
So that whole trust thing has been so interesting. And again, I'm a pretty straight talker, as you can tell. And I say to my clients, you know, if you don't trust people, you've got a bigger issue. Yeah. It's not whether they're working right or not. It's saying the dynamic between you and them is not right. Because you should be able to trust them. They should be so motivated and inspired that they want to do their job anyway. Yeah. And if you don't have those people, then that's the bigger issue.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it is exactly. If you've got people who are just going to do the bare minimum and just sit at the computer all day pretending to work, you don't need those people. You want the ones that are going to get the job done and do it quickly, and then give them the same salary, but they're allowed to take time. Definitely.
Yeah, exactly. We will change the world, Tara. It's coming.
We will. And I think, like you said, you know, we said that there is a definite shift and you can feel it. and people are becoming more open, and I'm just really excited about what's coming and what's happening, and especially the future generations, what they're going to bring. It's just like the next 10 years
Absolutely.
is just, I just can't imagine, but I'm just excited about it. It's going to be really good.
Yeah, me too. I think we'll sit here and go, oh, do you remember that conversation we had about entrepreneurs, and people kick back, and then it will just seem weird. You know?
Yeah.
Our kids will be like, really? People said that? Oh my God. Because you look at the pace so fast now.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I say to my daughter, that there's no point me telling you how I live my life, because your life will be so different. And we need to adapt to that. And I'm sharing what I know, and I'm hopefully giving some guidance along the way, but I'm not expecting your life to look like mine.
No.
You know?
No, my daughter, my youngest, teaches me stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just like, how do you know that? Where did that come from? And she's like, but Mum, it's this way. And I'm like, yeah, it is actually. Oh my God. She really astounds me.
Yeah, when my daughter first went to school, her first day she came home and she said, I don't understand something, Mummy. And I said, okay. And she said, why is school 5 days and the weekend is 2 days? Why isn't it like half and half? I was like, great question.
Yes.
You're so far, my child.
She was already thinking outside the box.
Already on it. Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. Yeah. It is. And everybody, like I say, has got the visionary power. And one thing I know you talk about is consciously creating your reality and not reacting to circumstance. How does that tie in with what we've just been talking about?
Yeah. So again, I think everything comes from vision and connection. That's the foundation of everything. Because without that, you've got no direction, you've got no compass. So I think it's about how you connect to that vision and connection. And from there, you can consciously create the reality. And you know, we are the creator of our reality. And I know I'm teaching you to suck eggs. Yeah. But so much more than we think we are, you know. And I've actually been divorced in the last 3 years. And you know, there's been so many times where the circumstances would say I can't do what I want to do. You know, I wanted to move to Bournemouth, and my ex issued a court order to stop us moving here.
Okay.
And my coach at the time was like, well, you can't buy into the circumstances. And I was like, there's an actual court order. And, you know, I was just like, what? You know, and do you know what the interesting thing was? I said all the way along to my daughter, I said, I know we're moving to Bournemouth. I just know it in my gut. Yeah. It makes no sense. I have no idea how this is going to happen, but it's going to happen. I know it, right? Every cell of my body, I know it. And we just held that. And I said, you have to manifest it with me. So we held the energy, and we came to Bournemouth, we stayed here, we did everything we could to bring it into reality, right? Yeah. And then she went to see her dad one day, and she came back and she said, Dad's going to let us move to Bournemouth, Mummy. And I said, really? And she said, yeah. I said, he just brought it up, and we were sitting on the sofa. He said, I'm going to let you and Mum go. And then the really interesting thing is that when my solicitor then looked at the court order, the court order wasn't what we thought it was. It actually didn't prevent us going.
Ah.
So I've had so many lessons in my personal life in this whole transition, huge, you know, at times quite painful transition, going, wow, look at how I could have blocked myself if I bought into that circumstance. But because we held that energy, and because we knew it, we created it. And the most amazing part of that story is now my daughter says, look what we create, Mummy. You know, we didn't think we could move to Bournemouth, but we did it, didn't we, Mummy? We manifested it. And I'm like, yes, we did. Wow. So everything now in our life that we're creating now, she says to me, we manifested this, Mummy, didn't we? And I'm like, yes, we did. And
I love that I love that that's a word she uses so easily.
Yeah. We went to the beach on Saturday with friends, and we had the Bournemouth air show going overhead, and she was in the water the whole day, which she loves. And before she went to sleep, she said to me, we're really clever, aren't we, Mummy, that we manifested all this? And I said, yes, we are. And it's a we, it's not me, it's we, you know? Yeah. So that's what I mean. And, you know, I say this to people, I use that story a lot with my clients, because I say to my clients, look, even when the circumstances look like it's impossible, and I love your podcast is all about creating something possible, right? But it's not impossible. You will be astonished what can line up when you stop buying into circumstances. You come from your vision, you have absolute clarity, and we don't have time to talk about it, but you also have to clear out all the stuff that's stopping the clarity, obviously.
Yeah.
And heal a lot of stuff that stops you being in that full ding, 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 tuning fork kind of alignment, which is a whole other topic. I've also done a huge amount of healing myself and working through a lot of stuff to be able to be in that crystal clear alignment with where I'm going. So I think it's crystal clear alignment to your vision, and it's also healing the stuff that's getting in your way.
Yeah.
And that's the magic thing, I think, that when you can do both sides of that story, then you can become the creator.
Yeah, because you don't have to have healed completely before connecting with your vision. A lot of people think that. I think, well, I have to deal with this stuff first. But they have to work, like you say, together.
Yes.
From the front and the back, if you like.
Absolutely. And I say to my clients, you heal as you go.
Yeah.
You heal as you go. You make the movement that you can make. That's the biggest thing you can do at this point in time. And you heal as you go. Because you're right. So often people are like, but I can't be a coach because I've still got my own crap going on, you know? Yeah. And you're like, welcome to the human condition. So have we all.
I mean, your crap maybe is not as bad as your clients, if you know what I mean.
No, exactly. Well, you're like stages ahead. Absolutely.
Different crap.
And again, I've been so much more transparent with my clients in the last couple of years. And, you know, I was chatting to this CEO in America, you know, founder of this amazing, huge business. And I was my diary just got completely swamped before the summer. I was like, you know, and he said to me, and he couldn't get in my diary. And he said to me, so all the stuff you've been telling me. And I was like, yeah, no, you're right. Absolutely. I said, that's growth phase, isn't it? You hit a place where you're like, okay, now things need to change. I need to go into the next evolution. And you're constantly evolving and evolving rather than waiting for some magic thing to happen when you'll be ready. Because you and I know you're never ready, right?
No.
You just believe.
Exactly, yeah. I was talking to a client the other day and she was going, all I need is a couple of days just to get everything sorted. And I was like, is that realistically going to happen? She said, no. I said, well, then work on it as you're going through it and just dedicate an hour to it. If that's what you know you can realistically do, because otherwise you're just going to feel guilty that you didn't do what you were expected to do for 2 days when you didn't have 2 days free.
Absolutely. And beat yourself up and then go back down that kind of spiral, which is not going to help your energy and your kind of manifestations of future. Yeah. I also think there's been a big thing in personal development about focus on the positive, focus on the positive, focus on the positive. And I think it's done as a disservice, actually. And I'm now, having gone through experience I've gone through in the last couple of years, and much more like, do you know what? You also have to be with the whole spectrum. Yeah. And sometimes you just have to sit and cry and get the pain out, you know, not to go down into it, but actually just to release it physically from your body and allow that healing process to go on, you know. Otherwise it will come back and bite you on the bum sometime in the future.
It is, because you're just dealing with the symptom each time you're pushing it away, but you've got to get to the cause, haven't you? That's what you have to release, the reason behind it.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. So you said you're working with startups and a new foundation or funds, or so how can people get involved with you with that kind of thing if they're just startup entrepreneurs?
Yeah. So I say my work on a one-to-one level is with the big visionary founders, and that's where I translate a lot of that stuff down through the ranks. I am just kind of like working on and create something for early stage founders that have a big vision. Yeah. So not somebody that wants to be a solopreneur, but somebody that has actually got a big vision that they want to create in the world, and they're going to create something bigger than them around it. Okay. So so do get in touch with me if that's what they're interested in. But I also want to build this movement of visionary founders. So that's what my podcast is about. Visionary Founder Podcast is this movement of founders. So I will also be creating a community around that. So I'm in this kind of like incubation plotting.
Stage. Exciting stage.
I have scribbles and flipped up paper all over the place at the moment. So there will be something for all levels of visionary founders, and I feel really passionate about that. Okay, so we can put a link to perhaps how to get in touch with you and also to your podcast in the show notes as well, can't we? That's amazing. Thank you. Cool. What words of wisdom can you leave my listeners to keep them motivated even when circumstance looks really bleak? I would say that your vision is always right. Your gut is always right, and you do know. And
Yeah.
and I'm going to give 2 bits of wisdom. So I'd say go back to your vision, go back to that feeling and trust it because it's always right.
Okay.
And the second thing I would say is surround yourself with like-minded people.
Okay.
That's where these
Yeah.
podcasts are so important, I think, right? Where you can hear the stories of other people who've been in your shoes and have stayed the course. That there is always something amazing on the other side, and surrounding ourselves with people who know that and who live in that world just lets your brain know that it's possible. It's kind
That's
of
a big thing, letting your brain know that it's possible.
absolutely, yeah. They're tricky things, those brains.
They are. They like to say, no. This is how it really is, Tara. Look at it.
Stay safe.
Yes, just keep going, doing the little stuff. Yes.
Yeah. It's not true, everybody. Live extraordinary. That's my big message.
Live extraordinary lives. Exactly. That's one thing to take away, definitely.
Yes.
So thank you so much for your time, Lisa. I really appreciate it. And I'll make sure I put all the things in the show notes as well, so people can get in touch with you. And oh, that was my dog. And thank you for joining us today.
Really love it. I love connecting with like-minded people. It's been an absolute joy. So thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you. Wow, I just absolutely loved that interview. I thought it was so great, the insight that Lisa shared with us, and I hope that it really resonated with you too. I just wanted to give you a quick reminder about my coaching program that starts on the 29th of September. I am so excited. I still have a few spaces left. If you'd love to join us, please do so. It's 8 weeks of one-to-one private coaching with me, and we'll be looking at the different ways we can get through your self-limiting beliefs and self-sabotaging behaviors, money blocks that you might have, anything that's holding you back in your business, in your entrepreneurial journey, and stopping you from living the level of success that you desire and totally deserve. And as I said, this is private coaching, so we work one-to-one, and it's all personalized around you, which is the best way that I find to work with people. So if you're interested in that, please get in touch and book yourself a short call with me before, just to see whether we fit well together, we can work well together. It's no obligation from either you nor from me to commit to coaching. So I'm going to put a link in the show notes as well that you can get in touch with me, and let's jump on a call and just see what happens, see whether or not we can create a winning magic together. Sending you lots of love. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Thank you for listening to the Happy, Inspired, Motivated podcast. I'll be back next week bringing more meditation, mindset, and motivation for your happy and successful life. To find out more about our community, go to tarachatzakis.com/happy, inspired, motivated.